Good morning from Cannes. I am Rahel Costa and I will now read my editorial. Editorial by Rachel, the livret A at 1.8%. The joy of €4. Fantastic press release from the government. They want us to believe today that a change of 0.3 of a percentage point is the answer for the 58 million French people. Light the torch, because the good 1.8% is shrouded in a cloud of inflation that, judging by the European Central Bank's calculation, seems more aggressive than a cat under anesthesia. But should such modest increases really make us jump for joy? Or is this just another attempt by the media to turn an economic drama into a "there is a little more hope" story? In the meantime, the formula used by the Bank of France, crafted with the precision of a Swiss watchmaker, is treated as a convention to be bypassed when exceptional circumstances knock at the door. When does the honorable state decide to adjust an algorithm? When the war in the Middle East pushes inflation to 2.2% in April. When the ECB might decide to raise the Euro STR, but is as indecisive as a cat faced with 2 bowls of milk. A confusing mix of unknowns makes more likely vaguer than an astrologer's forecast with the disabled sixth sense. But the biggest lie is the forced smile with which headlines celebrate a good sign. A rate that rises from 1.5% to 1.8% and still yields a negative real return is the financial equivalent of promising a decaf cappuccino. It sounds nice, but the taste remains bitter. It is easier for journalists to turn a deterioration in purchasing power into good news than to admit that citizens remain crushed by inflation that recycles their savings into a vortex of loss. Finally, where is the transparency? The news does not say whether the government really intends to round up to 2% or if this is merely a desire to appear more generous than necessary. Perhaps the authorities prefer to keep the public waiting, so they do not have to face the harsh reality that even a 2% rate would not offset inflation. A conclusion that, if written as poetry, would sound like this. 2%. Small increase, big illusion, a cardboard applause, a true disappointment. Koan of the day. Monk. Master, if the livret A rises but the real return stays negative, what does the saver gain? Master, the saver gains the consolation of a higher rate, but the real gain is the peace of mind that they have done something, while their money continues to lose value like snow in the sun. Monk, then why don't the government or the bank adjust the calculation so the money actually grows? Master B. Polly Wallaberman, because the true balance lies in accepting the impossibility of stopping a flowing river, and in the wisdom of spending the time that money can no longer buy. Now back to the news. French national football team. Camavinga has the right to blame me, I understand. Didier Deschamps defends his choices for the 26-man squad for the World Cup. After announcing the 26-player roster for the World Cup, the coach defended his decisions in a press conference on Thursday. On the absences of Lucas Chevalier and Eduardo Camavinga. The two most mentioned missing names are Lucas Chevalier and Eduardo Camavinga. Regarding the goalkeeper, Deschamps reiterated that the sporting criterion is paramount. Chevalier, 24, joined Paris Saint-Germain from Lille in the summer, endured a difficult season, gradually losing his starter spot to Matvei Safonov, and then suffered an injury that further limited his chances. If he had had more minutes, the story would have been different. I spoke to him in March during the training camp, reaching out because he had not played for weeks. Unfortunately, his situation did not improve, and the injury prevented him from accumulating more playing time, the coach explained. As for Eduardo Camavinga, Deschamps justified the exclusion by citing, quote, his season despite a few injuries and the very, very high competition in the French midfield, where 5 players are capable of starting. The selector acknowledged the player's disappointment, noting his 29 caps, and said, I do not doubt his potential. Today he has the right to blame me, I understand. On the unexpected inclusion of Robin Risser, Chevalier's absence opened a spot for a newcomer with no prior national team call-ups. Robin Risser, goalkeeper of RC Lens, will make his World Cup debut at 21. He is young. He has already been shaken by us during a Monday training session. He had a really, really good season. Deschamps commented, the young man, winner of the Ligue 1 Best Goalkeeper Award, will be third behind Mike Maignan and Bryce Samba in the pecking order. He is not expected to play, but will travel with the squad. Unlike Alphonse Areola, West Ham, Jean Baptiste or, surprisingly, Hugo Lloris, now at Los Angeles. Hugo never considered the third-choice role because he has never held it, and today he is focused on management. Alphonse has experience, but his playing time is limited in a team where he is not a starter, added Deschamps. On the confirmation of Maxence Lacroix, the defensive issue has been solved. The squad includes 9 defenders, and Maxence Lacroix was selected. The Crystal Palace defender has shown good form and integrated quickly in his first 142 minutes of national team friendlies against Brazil and Colombia in March, covering for William Saliba's absence. He performed very well in March, can play on either side. Having 3 options for each position adds an extra layer of security, the coach said. On the choice of Jean-Philippe Mateta over Randal Kolo Muani, with an attacking setup, similar to 2022 with Griezmann and 3 forwards, Deschamps opted for 9 attackers. 8 were already secured, and the final spot went to Jean-Philippe Mateta for 2 reasons. First, the Crystal Palace striker was decisive in the first 3 qualifying matches, scoring 2 goals. He has been very effective with us, and he is the same at his club, the coach noted. Second, his physical profile. At 1.92 meters tall and powerful, Mateta adds vertical dimension to France's attack, where Hugo Ekitike, 1.89 meters, already provides aerial presence. He has the profile of a target striker, excellent in heading, and his height allows him to move differently. This gives us varied options, Deschamps added, preferring him to the faster profile of Randal Kolo Muani. Context. Press conference held on the 14th of May 2026, during which Didier Deschamps explained the rationale behind the 26-player selection for the 2026 World Cup. Fact check by GPT OSES 20B. You are listening to news from France and the word on Centrale Milano 1575 kHz and on Radio Nizza. French Press Review. Welcome to the French Press Review from Paris. I am Rachel Costa. France 24. BFM Business. The livret A rate could rise to 1.8%. France Business. With inflation returning, French financial authorities are studying the possibility of raising the livret A interest rate from 1.5% to 1.8% by August. The decision is motivated by rising consumer prices, which have pushed inflation above 2% nationally. However, economists warn that real returns will remain negative because inflation still exceeds the savings rate. The proposal was discussed at the Budget Policy Council, where some members called for a more moderate revision. If approved, the measure could affect savers' purchasing power. Market observers see the increase as an attempt to maintain confidence in the banking system. The splendid wisdom of Modi telling Indians to keep their money in the bank instead of buying gold or flying abroad. A true champion of spend less, dream more, which nevertheless seems more like an acceptance of a crisis than a solution. And then add the price of tea. If you don't buy gold, at least you save on your next holiday to Dubai, right? BBC News. Modi urges Indians to buy less gold and travel less abroad. BBC Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched a national campaign to reduce gold demand and curb overseas travel spending. The initiative stems from fears that rising oil prices and geopolitical tensions are weakening the rupee. Modi asked citizens to save money to support the country's foreign exchange reserves. Economic analysts believe the measure could limit capital flight, but also warn of possible repercussions for the tourism sector. The government has announced tax incentives for domestic savings. Reactions on social media are mixed, with some praising the proposal as prudent and others seeing it as restrictive. France Info. Hantavirus. American passenger tests negative. France Info. French health authorities confirmed that the American passenger aboard the cruise ship MV Hondius tested negative for the new hantavirus test. Initially, the case had caused great concern because the ship had been isolated to prevent an epidemic. Experts explained that false results are often due to contaminated samples or still imperfect detection techniques. The cruise can now resume its itinerary, though quarantine measures remain in place for other passengers. The Ministry of Health reiterated the importance of regular checks during travel. The closed case has revived debate on managing health emergencies on maritime transport. France Info. Nantes. Shooting in Port Boyer. Teenager killed. France Info. In the early hours of Friday, a shooting in the Port Boyer area of Nantes killed a 15-year-old teenager and seriously injured 2 peers. Pole. ICE responded quickly, secured the suspects, and opened an investigation. The prosecutor said the motive is still under investigation, but the dynamics appear linked to local drug trafficking. Authorities have activated psychological assistance protocols for victims and families. The incident has renewed discussion about safety in urban neighborhoods. Residents expressed concern and called for more resources to prevent youth crime. BFM Business Cerebras goes public with a valuation over $80 billion. BFM Business, Californian startup Cerebras, specializing in large-scale artificial intelligence chips, announced its initial public offering, surpassing an $80 billion valuation. The company has secured major partnerships with OpenAI and Amazon, promising unprecedented computing performance. Industry analysts see Cerebras as a potential rival to NVIDIA, especially in high-intensity data center workloads. The IPO was welcomed by investors, with the stock jumping 12% initially. Experts caution, however, that the high cost of the chips could limit broad adoption. Interest in AI continues to drive hardware innovation. BFM Business IMF warns of an unfavorable scenario due to the war in the Middle East. BFM Business. The International Monetary Fund published a report projecting global growth of 3.1% for 2026, but warning of an unfavorable scenario caused by the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. Rising energy prices and supply chain disruptions could slow the economic rebound. The IMF recommends intensifying diplomatic efforts to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. It also advises supporting the most vulnerable countries with financial assistance programs. The report sparked mixed reactions among governments, some of which disputed the forecasts. Experts say the situation remains highly uncertain. BFM Business CAC 40 approaches 8,100 points thanks to a Wall Street rally. BFM Business. After a week of positive results in the U.S. markets, France's main index, the CAC 40, closed at 8,080 points, up 0.93% from the previous day. Analysts attribute the rise to a stronger dollar and a recovery in the technology and consumer goods sectors. The Paris exchange also benefited from news of reduced trade tensions between the United States and China. However, some observers warn of possible corrections due to high trading volumes. The upward trend was confirmed by increased trading activity. Investors remain cautious but optimistic for the rest of the year. BBC News. Hundreds of illegal scooters demolished in New York. BBC New York Police launched a large-scale operation to remove more than 100 illegal scooters, part of a campaign against gun-related crime. The scooters had been used in a shooting that killed a newborn in Brooklyn last month. During the operation, authorities also seized numerous prohibited firearms. The mayor called the action a decisive blow in the fight against urban violence. Residents applauded the intervention, hoping for a reduction in related crimes. Police announced further checks in the coming months to ensure street safety. BBC News. Deep fake anti-immigration videos traced to Sri Lanka and Vietnam. BBC investigation found that a series of fake videos aimed at stoking fear about immigration in the United Kingdom were produced by groups based in Sri Lanka and Vietnam. The videos, labeled anti-Sharia, depicted alleged speeches by British politicians against immigrants, but forensic analysis revealed the use of artificial intelligence to alter faces and voices. Social platforms have removed most of the material, though some fragments remain online. Cybersecurity experts warn that such campaigns can fuel polarization and hate. British authorities are considering possible sanctions against the creators. The discovery raises questions about regulating AI-generated content. BBC News. New giant dinosaur species discovered in Thailand. BBC. A team of paleontologists announced the discovery of a new large dinosaur in a remote area of Thailand. The fossil, dated to roughly 100 million years ago, belongs to a carnivorous theropod with an especially long tail. Scientists named the species Siamraptor in honor of the region. The remains include parts of the skull and limb bones, allowing researchers to reconstruct the animal's posture. The find provides new insight into dinosaur diversity in Southeast Asia. Experts anticipate further excavations to better understand the ecosystem of that era. The news has generated excitement among the public, with many articles circulating on social media. Weather for Paris and Milan on Friday the 15th of May, 2026. Paris, cool day with scattered showers. The updated forecast from expert Regis Crepé at 3:30, with good reliability, shows a warm morning at 7 degrees Celsius, light northwest wind at 10 kilometers per hour, and a mostly clear sky with no rain. In the afternoon, the temperature rises to 13 degrees. The wind strengthens with gusts up to 40 kilometers per hour from the northwest, and the sky becomes heavily clouded with a 70% chance of rain. In the evening, around 20 degrees, the sky remains very cloudy with brief clearings, and the rain risk drops to 35%, while the wind stays at 40 kilometers per hour. During the night, temperatures fall back to 7 degrees. The sky stays very cloudy but more variable. The wind eases to 10 kilometers per hour, and no precipitation is expected. In summary, the day swings between a low of 6 degrees and a high of 13 degrees, with winds from 10 kilometers per hour at noon to 40 kilometers per hour in the afternoon, and scattered showers mainly in the late afternoon. Milan, unstable weather with light rain. According to the bulletin updated by expert Daniele Berlusconi of 3B Matteo at 7:18, with 95% reliability, the morning will have overcast skies, a temperature around 9 degrees, virtually no wind, and light drizzle with a 75% probability. In the afternoon, the temperature rises to 14 degrees, the sky remains overcast or very cloudy, the wind picks up to a moderate 10 kilometers per hour from the east-northeast, and the chance of rain stays high, with possible showers especially late in the day. In the evening, around 20 degrees, the clouds thin out, the temperature reaches 16 degrees, the wind is light from the east, and precipitation drops almost to zero. At night, the temperature falls to 9 degrees. The sky is clear or slightly cloudy. The wind is weak from the east, and no rain is expected. In summary, temperatures range from a low of 9 degrees to a high of 17 degrees, with winds varying from calm to moderate and light rain, mainly in the morning and afternoon. Weather editorial by Rachel, The Vicious Circle of Climate Change. It is truly astonishing how every raindrop or light breeze is instantly turned into proof of an impending climate apocalypse. A light drizzle in Paris, and portal editors are already shouting, "Global warming in action!" Yet the thermometer in Milan shows only a few degrees difference from the decade's average. And social media erupts as if we have discovered the last frontier of an ice age. We should not ask why people blame climate change on every change in weather. The real question is why people love to make a gentle rain into an epochal drama. Perhaps it is easier to argue with a cloud than with the real causes of our reckless consumption. In the end, it is simpler to blame the weather than to change our habits. Koan of the day. The monk asked Zhao, "Master, if it rains in Paris today but is dry in Milan, what is the true state of the sky?" Zhao replied, "The sky is what does not have an umbrella, and that is today's weather." Closing. Online, on X and Mastodon, on all smart speakers, and on the medium wave band, this is France Today with Centrale Milano 1575 kHz.